2-0. Just getting set up real quick. Well, welcome. This is episode 20, and we have a really special episode today. We're doing a Q&A portion with my father, and so the inspiration behind this was actually your idea. And what's up, Connor? Good to see you, brother. Um, it was really just about inspiring to generate those questions and create more vulnerability of the interpersonal relationships between our father specifically, and also just getting closer with family members in general. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Um, Getting closer in general and just being open with one another to share what's really going on behind the curtain, because not only do you have so much wisdom as through all your experiences, but we can also learn a lot from you and ask those questions that we know are on the tip of our tongue, and just practice sharing what's on our mind to be more authentic in who we are. And so this was a really great episode that you decided to create, because sometimes people don't know how to interact with their fathers, and this gives an opportunity for someone to share a little bit more about who they want to be, and just learn more about you as well.
Welcome, everybody. Yeah, this is Legacy Project number 20, and 20 means we've done 20 weeks in a row. Think about that. It's a lot of weeks. So we started in winter, and we're already headed to summer. So when Albert and I, there's an anniversary Albert and I have. So it's 1 year ago tomorrow that Albert and I went on our first father and son trip together. Yeah, believe it or not, this dumbass dad decided to take his son finally for the first time in his life at 24 years old and actually spend time with him, right? And I'm saying that facetiously because that's where I was. Is I didn't understand what relationships were and how important it was for me to pour myself into my kids. And so, why we're sharing this type of information is we came together at in San Diego is when this project, this thought, Albert brought to me. And he's like, "Hey, I have an idea about you and I coming together and just talking about where our family is, what kind of legacy we want to build, where we came from, and maybe inspire other sons and other fathers to kind of communicate." And then it grew into, well, why don't we inspire families? And so this is where this inception, and it takes, you guys, you have to understand, this takes massive, massive, massive vulnerability, massive surrender, massive releasing of ego. We're massive. I'm putting myself out there. He's putting himself out there because there's some topics that families don't talk about.
Mhm.
And so the idea that what this was behind was actually a couple of clients that I did this with over the phone. We had a Zoom call, and one client was struggling with a conversation he wanted to have with his dad. And I actually said, let's role play. What would he say? And he's like, what? And I go, I'm your dad. You want to ask me something. What do you want to ask me? And he asked it in a very, I don't remember the question, but it was a very like, not even a question. It was like he was questioning the question. I go, stop. Is that how you really would ask your dad? He's like, yeah. And I go, wow. So you can't even ask your father that question because you're not even comfortable asking that question. And I go, okay, let's start again. Pretend that belief system that you have is gone. What would you really want to ask him if you could? And his demeanor went down. And he asked the question. And I responded in a way that I thought his father would respond. And it has nothing to do with the answer. What it has to do with is we have in this we already sometimes we make up these ideas of what someone's going to say without saying it. We already have this false belief system because we're making it up. And all it did is allowed him to release the belief that the answer he was going to get was a wrong or right answer. I just wanted to give him a space to have an opportunity to do a trial run. There was no threat. And so that's why I wanted to bring it to the table is whatever question you have, it doesn't matter the answer. It's giving you the ability to at least do a trial run. What might that say? And maybe there's a trigger you're going to have. Oh my God, like, oh, now I have to deal with me. It's not about my dad. It's about what's going on with me.
It's the courage to be able to do it, right? It's not courageous if it's easy, right? And that still doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it if it isn't. And so that's again, the practice that we want to preach here is learning to share who you are and what you want to do and how you want to portray yourself. Because in that story that you just shared right now, there's so many other stories that are built upon that to not be able to do that on a daily basis, or when you feel like that thing that you want to ask on the tip of your tongue, but then retract it back. And that right there is where I wanted to bring this to the table is I didn't want to be that person anymore that just was always shy. I still do from time to time, but even when I have that second thought, then I make sure to ask it because if not, I don't feel like I'm being real to myself, and then I shell it back up, and then I can't be myself with you guys. So that was the inspiration for this podcast episode and for the reason why we're here today. So I want to get it started. I've got a list here, and I was still debating on how I want to do it. But for me, let's take it back to your youth. Okay, right now you're a teenager. You might be in middle school, you might be in high school. Maybe it was post high school. When did you know that you finally became a man after all this embrace? Can you tell us a little story about that?
Man, I'm going to tell a love story. I remember I've been infatuated with girls my whole life, and it's always a wound in mine. And I think when I fell in love with this girl, her name's Kara, in high school, I was 16, she was 17. And it was the first time that I felt love, like by another person, like she cared about me. And that was the first time that I was like, wow, like I'm going to be a dad someday. I'm going to get married someday. So, as I'm telling the story, little boys don't think like that,
Mm,
right? They may have this vision, but I actually started thinking about, wow, like interesting how that's happening. Now, it was interesting, like I was a late bloomer like you. So I didn't get through puberty until I was like 16 years old. So even though my body wasn't changing yet, I had visions of that. And so why I'm telling a short story is she fucking broke my heart. Summer of fucking 1989. She was going to be a senior. No, I was gonna be a junior. And no, back up. Summer of '89. I was gonna be a senior. She just graduated, and I found out that she fucked some dude named Scott. I even know his name, Scott, in a fucking hot tub. And I knew it became a man because I was heartbroken. You're not heartbroken when you're a little boy. You don't get
mm,
heartbroken. So that was my first time I think of sense of like, oh my God, like my heart is just aching. And now I have to figure out how to overcome this. Now, what's interesting is I got through the summer and I remember starting high school and I think I had a little mustache. I dressed a little bit differently. And the freshman girls and sophomore girls all of a sudden like were all over me. So it was like this, I not only learned how to get my heart broken, but I came back to school and started getting a lot of attention because I was an athlete. So I'm sharing all that because now my ego, and I think men start developing egos
mm,
at when they become a man. When you're 9 years old, you don't really have an ego. You don't understand what that is. But my ego started building. And I was like, well, if I do this, then I get this. If I'm good at basketball, then I get this tension.
mm,
So my ego started feeding itself. So I think that was, even though it's a sophomore way of becoming a man, I don't think I was a man. I was becoming a man with a lot of toxic traits that I didn't even know about. Think
mm,
about this. Ego is a sophomore trait. It really is because if you're led by your ego all the time, you're not really leading by who you really are. You're being fake about this. Heartbreak. I was a hot mess, and so I just was acting out a lot. That's a little sophomore, little boy, and and so then obviously having feelings for women that is also a way a man grows. But I was doing it in a way where I was like I felt like I was getting a little kid. So I was going through this transformation. Now I remember the second time I felt like a man. This is this tragedy. I was 19 years old, had a little mini truck lowrider, and I almost totaled it. And Uncle Pat and his family took me in. Now, why would you say, Albert, talking to myself, I was a man because it was the first time I hit financial distress. Like I literally barely had enough money to get my car fixed. I had no place to live. And it was the first adversity that I had as an adult of being on my own and what it felt to struggle.
Mhm.
I struggled. I was barely making it. I was working at a grocery store. And it was the first time that I felt for the first time that a man's life was hard.
Mhm. Damn. And in that struggle, I was talking to MMA guy this week, actually yesterday, and he was telling about the story, very similar actually, when he felt like he was a man, and it was when his dad didn't bail him out of jail because he got in some altercation and he felt low. And the reason why he felt that way is because his dad didn't bail him out. He said he had a buddy that was going to pay half, and then he asked his dad for it, and he was like, "Oh shoot, I don't have a backbone anymore to support on." And that last story really resonated because I went through that with you too, where like when I was a sophomore in college, I didn't know how to interact with you, and then um I felt financial distress too in that one when I was like, oh shit, okay, I've got to deal with this on my own or else I'm not going to be able to eat. I had enough money to survive, but it was just like I wasn't able to do the things I wanted to do anymore. And I was like, okay, well, guess gotta just work, and that's the only way to get it. So that was really inspiring from you because I hear it, and knowing a little bit too about with you and your dad back then, it was kind of rocky, and you had to turn to your friends to ask for support while you got back on your feet. And so I feel like as any individual is trying to make it to that next level, you have to realize, okay, you have to kind of burn all those other boats and just figure it out on your own.
But
So,
I'll also tell you, interesting, when I bought my car, I forgot to mention this, when I bought my car, my truck, I also felt as a person, I felt like a man. I felt responsible. Dude, I literally went in there. I tell you this, I literally went in this place. No, we're not telling me how to buy a car. In this car lot. And I negotiated it. Now I ended up getting screwed because they gave me a number, and that was the number. That's why I think I told you, but they didn't have taxes and licensing on it. So they added another 2 grand. So I thought it was 9 grand. It was 11 grand. So little things like that, right? But that I felt like a man because I did everything on my own. So I think what's really important is, again, we should have defined what is a man. Everybody has their own definitions. To me, as a 50-year-old man, this is the definition that I have, and this will resonate. He's responsible. He's respectable. He's honorable. He's dutiful. He's vulnerable. He's safe. Now, of those, there's more qualities. Of those six, I was only three of those
mm,
at that time. I was responsible. I was respectable in a way to myself, but I also had a responsibility to take care of myself. So I hadn't had family yet. So it's a great question because I just remember going back to the struggle is it hurt me so bad because I had no one to depend on except a friend who took me in, and he took me to work every morning, dude, at 3 a.m.
mm,
3 a.m. And then he picked me up at 11 a.m. And so I remember that the different people came into my life, maybe with you as well, where this is where it's really important is life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. But if we have a negative attitude of what's happening, we can poo-poo everything about it. And I was just grateful that I had somebody, a friend, that cared enough that he's like, bro, I got you. I never had that before. So he was like the first brother that I had that embraced me, that really showed me that friendship really can exist out there for men.
mhm. Yeah, and you have to have that sphere that's going to be able to back you up too when you have nothing else. So that's hard, especially when you're what? You're probably 18, 20 at the time. Yeah, still
19
trying
years.
to figure it out. Yeah. And so it's hard to ask for help too once you get older because everyone expects you to like, okay, you're 18, you're 20, you're 21. It's time to like I can perform now. Um, so with that, I was curious too, and if there's anyone on here, Erica, Melanie, if you guys have any questions that is on your mind that you've always wanted to ask, we encourage to come on and just ask the question. We're here for it. We want to promote vulnerability, want to be able to share what's really on your minds because there's not many spaces that are able to share this.
So
Um,
let me reiterate what Albert is asking is not about me, but if you want, again, the whole episode is a question you would like to ask your father. What's there a question that you wish you could ask your father? And let me help you with this. Like, I think here's a question that I have for my dad. Okay, it's a deep question, bro. It's a deep question. So kind of bear with me. So a little bit of backstory. My dad had two kids and he was married. Um, and that's me and my sister Val. And they were married for like 5 years. And then he got remarried. I won't tell a story, remarried and had two other kids. But my whole life, he never acknowledged his first marriage.
Mm.
What I would have asked him if we were in a space, if I felt safe about it, okay? I wouldn't feel safe on telling you, but you were my dad, okay? Actually, we'll role play. Let's say you're my dad.
Yeah.
Dad, the one question I have for you, and it's bothered me since I was a little kid. Why didn't you ever like recognize your first family, like mom, Sylvia, Valerie, and myself as a family? Why did you act like it never existed?
Based on my childhood and based on the way that I was raised, it felt like I had to take care of my family that was now, and to acknowledge the past would have been hard on me to be able to been too hard on me to bring up my next kids, bring up you guys to be the people that you need to be, because throughout life, adversity is gonna come at you in all forces. And so that was the easiest way for me, was to make sure that my family was taken care of first rather than hold on to loose ties that were in the past.
That's a great answer. So the follow-up question I would have is, so do you acknowledge it now?
That one's hard to role play. For me, I would want to revisit it down the line and maybe have a conversation with her, see how she felt, and if you're able to forgive, how we could acknowledge that with you and how that made you feel.
Let me tell you how I feel right now. I'm super triggered.
Hmm.
Um, because it's my wound.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you at least go on there. Not sure what he would say, but at least I have an understanding of what could have been said. I think that's why this is important. Because I'm going to sit through that tonight, Bob. It just
Yeah.
can
Are we in role play mode still or no? We're not anymore, right?
not which chat what I
Okay.
but I want to just thank you for at least taking that on. That was a hard thing to do, just to put you on the spot. So thank you for going there and being vulnerable. But for me, it's going to set with me tonight. So I need to figure out how to do it. So that's why we're doing this, right? Is whatever question you might have, doesn't matter the answer. But at least I got to release a little bit of that today.
Hmm. Thanks for showing up and stepping up. So yeah, on that note, whatever's on your heart that you've always wanted to ask, please drop it in today. And we would love to, either if you just want to type it in, or if you want to hop on and be in the hot seat, it's a great opportunity to just release whatever's on your mind. It could be specifically with the father figure, or the relationship that's on your mind. Um, so I have one question for you too. If you're, are you,
Good.
you vulnerable? Yeah. Is, as a man, before I transition to other aspects in life, have you done something that everyone else has disagreed with you, but you stuck with it anyways? And can you explain more about that experience?
Yeah, I think so. It's an interesting question because I've always been a black sheep in my family. Let me tell you what that means. I wasn't really close to my parents. And so even though they wanted me to go to school and get a good job, because of the way that we left the family, which is very abruptly, I had to grow up really quickly. So I developed this attitude of it doesn't matter what you think. There's really nobody. I was actually fighting society. So My fight wasn't with my family. My fight was with society. So I would say, if I would put my hat back on, is I used to have this huge. I'm going to share the story real quick. In college, do you know what affirmative action is, by the way?
Yeah, they still have it.
Okay. So in college, I was in this Chicano class. That's where my head was at. It was all about, being Mexican and this and that. I'm not disputing that, but there's a certain hierarchy that happens within this culture of redefining who you are as a race. Okay. And I'm in this class, and we had to do a paper, a topic on Chicano history. Mine was on affirmative action.
Wow.
And maybe the topic was affirmative action. I don't remember, and I was pro affirmative action. Now that was in my mindset. I was like, yeah, because I grew up in this environment. My dad told me, all my cousins told me, all my aunts said, there's a lot of scholarship because you're Mexican. Go get this because you're Mexican. Because you're Mexican, because you're Mexican, because you're Mexican. So that was ingrained in me as a victim. Honestly, like because you're Mexican, you get to get these privileges. That was taught to me. So I did my whole paper why affirmative action was good because it allowed me to have more opportunity in state colleges, in work, instead of being having to live up to standards that everybody else has. I can make an exception. All these things right up. I had bullet points of why affirmative action was good. Uncle Pat, okay, he had just graduated college. I'm on my fourth year at fucking. I'm on my first year at Sac State. I'm on the fucking 7-year program, right? And I told Pat about the story. He's like, "Are you fucking kidding me, Albert? You don't believe in affirmative action?" And I go, "What do you mean?" "Yeah, dude. Yeah, you know what? You get your college paper by your parents." He's like, "Let me break it down. You're a really great basketball player. Like when we go play basketball, it's me, you, and we got fucking couple of the guys we know. They're ballers, right? So Andre was there to say 30. And there's this whitest black dude in high school we ever had. White. He's a black guy, but white. He can't jump. He's good at fucking drama. He's good at drawing. He's good at the trombone, but he can't play sport. His name is Joe Fletcher. Okay. And he's like, "Are you telling me because Joe's black and we have 4 players and we can get another baller, we have to put Joe on our team? Who the fuck is Joe going to guard? Who's he going to shoot? He can't even play. So we're going to be hamstrung because he's black to be on our team?" That's what affirmative action is. Boom, my head exploded. And I was like, "Holy shit." He goes, "Dude, that's what affirmative action is. Affirmative action is picking you because of your race to have a quota. Why would we pick Joe Fletcher on our team?" He told me that. I went back and I wrote the paper, bro. Rewrote it of why affirmative action was bad. The teacher gave me a D. I went to his class his office afterwards, and I said, "Why'd you give me a D?" He's like, "Because you changed your position." I go, "No, no, no, no. You can't judge me on what I said. It's based on the merit of the paper. I want you to. I'm gonna fucking turn you in." He then gave me an A minus after that.
Wow.
He actually turned the grain of my dude. I was 22 years old when this happened. That one incident completely turned. I took my Mexican hat off. I took everything that you could think about. I don't even look at myself as Mexican. Everybody else does, but that veil, that red pill, the first time in my life came off. Was like that was the first time that I stopped being a victim because of my race.
Hmm.
Pivoting point. That was a huge pivot in my life. Against the grain, bro. Against the fucking grain. I'm telling you what, I was vilified by that. His name is Dr. Renfro was his name. I remember his name. Dr. Renfro was.
It's funny what we remember. The story that pops, I don't know if you want to share this one or not, so I'll just snippet it or not. It just reminds me of, I don't know if this was before or after the cop incident that you had. I don't know if you want to share that story or not.
You want to got arrested?
Um,
The,
yeah,
the
yeah,
gun,
yeah.
the gun time, or with Michelle. Okay, yeah. So I'll tell you this. So, yeah.
What was the age difference? Which one was first?
So yeah, the gun one was first. Yeah, great question. So the college one was when I was 22 because I listed was going to be born. So when I'm 20 years old, great question, Bob. I uh, so my dad, he had a house, and I went to go help at the house that he had a girlfriend living in, and I trimmed some hedges, and I had a ripped shirt off, and I'm in this suburban neighborhood driving. Now back then, unfortunately, right, there was a lot of carjackings, and if you had a nice car, you were getting carjacked, like fucking like cars, like mini trucks, lowriders, all they were getting jacked. I had a gun at the time, and the gun wasn't mine. It was a little Saturday Night 50, Saturday Night Special, okay, about this big, and it was in my car. And I don't know why I was a knucklehead. I was carrying it. I would just had this ego. This ego was like, no one's gonna fuck with me. Like that's how I was. I was just this mad guy. So I'm in the suburban neighborhood and going to my buddy Jason's house, and I happen to roll a stop sign. There's a cop right there. Shit. So I go and I'm going to Jason's house and I pull up. And back then they used to come to the driver's side to check you out. Now they come passenger side. So I knew he was coming out my side, and the gun was on the side. I didn't realize it was just flopping right there. That's how stupid I was. So I get out of the car, and the gun falls out. And I get out, and these two cop doors are like, "Get the fuck on the floor!" And they had their guns on me, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And they kicked my ass. Like they were like, it was just crazy what they did to me. But I was so helpless. I can understand now, but I'm literally on the ground, and they take me up and they handcuff me, put me in the back of the car, and I'm scared shitless. I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? What you don't know is the gun was loaded.
You told me that.
It was loaded.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have a loaded gun without fucking a permit.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's how stupid I was. That's how stupid a 20-year-old I was. So I get in the back of the cop car, and he's like, "You're fucked, dude. If you have anything on your record, you're fucking fucked. You're going to jail. You're going to go to prison. It's a felony. You're jacked, right?" What did I do? So we're on our way to the station, the Sacramento station, and he starts asking me questions where I work, what am I doing, and I happen to work at this grocery store, and he's like, "You work at that grocery store?" It's called Nugget Market, and he starts telling me all these stories. I go, "Yeah, I know. Do you know Carrie? Carrie was the manager." And he's like, "Yeah." I go, he was Carrie fucked my wife and he married her. So this cop is telling me his dirt about the manager I had, about his ex-wife fucking this guy and leaving him. So we're on our way to we're down going to the station house in Sacramento. And the way it is at jail, you got to go down into this like bat cave. He pulls over and he stops. And he goes, "Someday, kid, you're going to thank me." He ripped the ticket up. Ripped the ticket up, which was a felony because it was a loaded weapon. And he rewrote the ticket. He just said I had an unmarked, unregistered gun that was not loaded. That's a misdemeanor. Huge difference. That one thing changed my life forever because had I had a felony, I would not be able to be a mortgage. Had I had a felony, I probably wouldn't have met your mom. All these things would happen. The misdemeanor gave me 100 hours of community service. So I was a guy out there in school with the yellow jacket on, and with all the other thugs. But that one incident changed my life forever because it could have gone either way. I don't know his name. I don't know what angel he was in my life, but he happened to save my life.
Damn. That's crazy. I've heard that story two or three times too, and it hits every time because it's like then I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So we're having some issues here. I can't hear you from my side.
Oh, that's because I muted myself.
There you go. What'd you say?
I said that's because I muted
Okay.
myself.
Okay. But what did you say part of that?
Oh, I said every time I hear that story, and that's the second or third time that I've heard it, it just gives me chills. It
What's
gives me
that?
chills because I wouldn't be alive today if
What?
that happened. No shot. No shot. And it's you just never know what's gonna happen. And so it's like, okay, like if something like that can happen, what's the positive side of it too? Like what good can you bring from just showing up, every day? There's something like on the reverse end of that, if you just did what you did every day, something else positive is gonna be in here. Because you got lucky, right? You got lucky on that one. So you can get lucky in a positive way too, rather than it being a consequence that you had to flip a coin, to get it your way.
Yeah. What's interesting, because so let me tell the backstory of that. So how that incident, I forgot about it. It had to do with you. So on your fifth grade graduation, I don't know if I told you this, but I'll tell you this. Well, you had to go through the Veracruz, right, in San Francisco. So me and our neighbor, Todd, we signed up to be overnight chaperones. Okay. And so we had to get, guess what? We had to get authorization through the city schools, right?
Oh yeah.
So I this is like so this is 19 it was like 2007 or
8.
something like
Yeah.
that. Right?
Yeah.
So this is like what is that? Almost 18 years, 17 years past what happened in the incident. So Todd gets his credentials and I haven't got approved. So I'm asking mom, have you heard from anybody? No. So I call the district. They're like, hey, Mr. Chavez, can you come and see us? We have some questions for you. Whatever. So I walk in the office, I'm sitting with the superintendent, and he's like, Mr. Chavez, hey, there's some discrepancies on our application. And I go, yeah, what's going on? And I completely forgot about it. He's like, so what happened in 1991? There's a gun incident. I think I turned white. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was young and I had a gun. I didn't say anything more than that. But I guess the question that the way I answered was, I don't know if it said if he had ever had any misdemeanor or been put, I don't know what I put, but I put the answer that I thought because I forgot about it. And I just, yeah, I was 21, 20 years old, or I was 19 years old. And I completely forgot about that. And it was, I did some community service, blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, okay. I went back and told your mom that story. She's like, are you kidding me? Like, because I don't know if she knew that story or not, but I don't remember if she did or
Probably
didn't.
not.
Are you kidding me? Like, what? And I go, we're clear now. So anyway, so I got to go spend the night because that story. So the moral of the story is, I don't care where you're at, your past always comes back on. It will come back. It'll come back in some way or another. But yeah, that's a interesting story and full circle, right? Because you're right. You probably wouldn't be in my life had that happened to me. Because who knows where I'd be or what I'd be doing if that was on.
Yeah. Well, one story leads to the next. We'll save that for another time. But you probably didn't tell mom that one, I think. Um, Man, okay. So going off of that one, let's see, we have about 15 minutes. I guess for me, oh, this one would actually be cool. It kind of goes in line with the last one, I think. But if you could see your grandchildren live, what would you want to share with them? Oh, I
Oh,
guess you do have a grandchild, but still, yeah.
that's a great question, dude. It's a hard question because there's different stages in life. Like I
Yeah.
think at 9 years old, she wouldn't understand. I only got 14 years old. If she was 13 years old, which will be in 10 years, is it doesn't matter what you think of your mom and dad. They will always love you. They may not act like it sometimes, but they're not there to be your friend. They're there to be your parent to guide you along. I'm going to share the story with you, okay? Do you know the story I told about Michael about smoking weed?
Yeah.
Sure. This is really important. All of you guys out there are going to have kids someday. And here's my feedback. Whatever your weakness is in life, it's your family's way out. What does that mean? Alcohol was indoctrinated into me since I was a little kid. I always thought alcohol was okay. My dad would literally give me a beer to drink in the car just for fun. Hey, try this beer. He indoctrinated me into alcohol. And then as I got older, pushed me away and said, don't drink alcohol. So when you're a teenager, what do you want to do? You want to drink alcohol because it's that forbidden fruit. But then he's partying and having a good time, and all my relatives are partying and having a good time. So I'm seeing this life of like, here's what an adult is. And so I'm going to be able to do this someday. So I might as well do it now. So there's an indoctrination process. So Michael smoked weed. And, the interesting part of that is, I don't get too much information, but the bottom line is I talked to him because he was having struggles about a year and a half ago. And I just said, here's your deal. Why do you do it? It's probably contributing to why you're not feeling. And he's like, well, it makes me feel good, it calms me down. which may be some of your excuses out there that are listening. You do certain things that make you feel calm. What you're doing is you're running away from the feeling. And I said, imagine this. Brielle is 13 years old, and you find a vape in her closet. What are you going to say? Like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, are you going to get pissed? He goes, yeah, I'll be pissed because she shouldn't be doing that. Why? I said, he's like, well, because she's not old enough. I go, but what if she says dad or daddy? It makes me feel calm.
Mm.
It's like you say weed makes you feel calm. What are you going to say to her? And he looked at me like you're looking at me right now. He's like, I don't know. Well, that's the problem. You're going to tell her wait till you're 18. Now you're being a fucking hypocrite because now you're putting a date because she can do this and that, but you're showing her your weakness and you're indoctrinating her that when she gets a certain age, now it's okay. And now she's going to hide and she's going to sneak because dad's doing it. Why can't I do it? Your weakness is their way out. A month later, he called me. He says, I'm done. I haven't smoked in a month. And they ended up signing for the CHP Academy, and the rest is history. Hasn't had it since. Now, did my conversation have an impact on? I don't know, but it sounds like it. But I think it's up to him as a man, as a husband, to make that decision.
Mm.
And I think it's important that everybody here, you have to understand when you become a parent, you're responsible for teaching that young person not to be friends with. You're responsible to teach them self-respect, not their feelings. So you're back this. I'm gonna throw some wisdom on you. Your responsibility as a parent isn't to build their self-esteem, bro. It's to build self-respect.
Mm.
I just learned that. Too many people are trying to build their self-esteem and making them feel good. No. Self-esteem is earned with self-respect.
Self-respect. Yeah.
Respect themselves, they're going to respect you as a parent.
Yeah, they're
But
treating the symptom.
that makes sense?
Yeah, they're treating the symptom, not the source.
Yeah. So my point is, what I've learned as a parent, what I'm giving you gift of is, when you become a parent, your responsibility is to build self-respect with that individual, not build them up on who they can be in life.
Mm.
And I know Mom and I did at that time. I'm telling you as a 52-year-old man now. Now that I see the bigger picture, we did build your self-esteem, and I thought we did an okay job, but we never taught you how to build self-respect because you have a lot of things that you had to go through. You're still going through of building yourself as a young man now. So I learned that self-respect. How you build self-respect? You make your bed. You do certain things that are the disciplines, right? And then those lead into your self-esteem.
Mm. Yeah, I like the way you put that too. Is it's because there's some colleagues of mine that have been talking about like some of the stuff with too, and it seems like that's the way he's going too. Is like how do you because it's hard as a parent, right? There's so many like new ways that people are learning certain things, right? There's so much change that's happening right now, and so many different perspectives are being filtered through. And so I guess with the combination of like every parent wanting to like be too friendly with their kids, it's becoming a conflict of interest now where they want to have this responsibility of taking care of this child, but they want to make them feel good. And so it's like that friendship role with the parent role is conflicting and there's a line that's drawn, but they keep hopping back and forth. And then what does that lead to? It leads to kids not knowing how their parent really is with them. And two, they don't understand what that boundary is and learn what discipline is. And so that's interesting that you put it that way.
They learn not to respect you. So
Right.
I'm a great example. You guys may have accepted me, but I wasn't respected. I
Mm.
wasn't respected. So when kids know that they can disrespect their parents or just get away with things, that is a huge indicator that they may accept you for who you are, but they don't respect you. They don't respect you because they don't respect themselves. And if they see you with these vices and doing, that's why I'm really big proponent. They see you doing things, or you're not in good shape, or you're struggling all the time, or you're always losing your temper and you're not safe. That's not a healthy man. And
Mhm.
they're going to be repelled by that. They're going to try to fight. That's why these influencers are making a big difference on kids because their parents aren't their hero, their influences are.
Mhm.
we can go down a rabbit hole, but yeah, it's really, really conflicting right now. The parents are doing a horrible job raising their kids right now because they want to teach them. They want to get to an age, then they get to a point where a lot of these parents are like, "Well, if you're going to be an adult someday, then you're almost an adult." No, you're not an adult, but now all of a sudden they give them the free reins. It's like giving a kid a candy store. They're gonna
Mm,
fucking eat all the candy
right.
because they haven't learned how to respect the little candy that they have.
Yeah. Mm. I like that one. The self-respect thing is huge because I just see it everywhere now where it's like I was actually talking with Clinton about this too. We were talking about just how everything's kind of been inflated a little bit more with prices and stuff like that, where everyone was used like during COVID, everyone was used to going out and eating out all the time. And so kind of going with the candy store analogy is like everyone's used to eating out, everyone's used to a certain standard of living, but then they're living beyond their means. And so you get used to going out, you used to like eating ice cream, you used to like doing all these treats, these luxury items, right? But then you don't know how to take care of yourself in the long run. So you spread yourself too thin, not seeing the future benefit of it. It's hard. It's hard to build momentum when everything's just like there's all these small roadblocks that you're putting rather than just the natural flow that is going to be there already. So, last one. We're running short on times. This I didn't realize it would be this in depth. So this is what we do on our podcast every time. It's really deep. Um, so give it a second. If today was your last day, what would you want to be remembered for?
But I tried everything right.
Hmm.
All right. At the end of the day, you know your dad tried did his best to the day he died to have you be proud that I can make you proud. That the legacy that we built won't be forgotten, and that it will actually inspire you and your sisters to want to carry it on.
Hmm. I love it. It's I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years of your transformation is you're going to give it your best. Doesn't matter what's happening, doesn't matter what's going on. Um, you're willing to go above and beyond and feel those emotions, feel everything that you've neglected to go through, and have that not be the story of who you are today. You know, that everything that you've been with and done is a part of you, but it is not you. What is you is what you believe in right now.
Yeah, man, going down the rabbit hole, I'll say this on paper so you can hear me again, but I the desert changed me. Like it gave me so much medicine of just looking at myself, not in a hateful way, but a really compassionate way of like, okay, this is what you were dealt with. Now what are you going to do? Are you really committed to if you were to die today, that's just 4.5 years ago, like what would your kids say about you? And would they be proud of you? Would they respect you? That's all I cared about. And because I'm going to tell you, I don't respect your grandfather.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of him. And I bet if you heard that, it would break his heart. And I lived with that. The desert, I was forced to look at that. And I'll say this over and over. I think I'm the martyr of our family. What does that mean? I think that I decided to not be him, whatever him was. And I'm like, fuck that, no more. If I'm a die alone, at least in the process, I was able to reconstruct a whole new person by going through a series of adversities and failures and growths that I could feel that pain and suffering from, and I could retell the story, and I wasn't looking for any compassion from you guys. I wasn't looking for any validation. I wasn't looking for anything other than not even acceptance. I was just looking to make amends and to redeem what I lost. And if that meant that you were never in my life again, and your sister never in my life again, and I had to walk this earth alone, I was going to do everything in my power that when I passed away, I knew in my heart that I got rid of this anger, got rid of the vices, got rid of the alcohol, got rid of all the things that I used to run to because I was so immature in handling my regulation of emotions. And I think that's what I'm so proud about today. And I keep telling over and over, like, if you can learn how to, whatever comes at you, is to learn how to control your dick, control your mouth, and control your stomach. When those things happen, you'll get through it.
Hmm.
How you feeling, man? It's a lot.
Uh, It's a lot. It is. I think the more we've done this, though, I can absorb what I want to absorb and then filter what I don't have to. So it's not like all in my face now, you know? And so I think that's the blessing of doing this 20 times now, along with the other practicing I think that's the biggest thing that we are learning today is it's all practice, right? And we have to tell these stories too. Yes, it's your perception on life, but I can extract what I want to extract. Everyone here can learn from it, um, and be inspired and see like, okay, this is one man's life and his decisions to not live the story that was in the past. You know, I've said this multiple times, even just today. And then for me, I want to carry on that legacy for our family down the line too, because I lived a different life than you lived, and I want to be able to not forget what you had to go through so that we don't repeat the processes again. Because I think one point that you also mentioned too that I didn't learn or I didn't even like really consider is like when you suggested that the weaknesses of the family get passed on to that next thing is like, okay, now I'm looking in the mirror and being like, okay, what weaknesses am I going to be bringing to my family? Like, I'm going to always have a weakness, right? But now I need to be conscious enough of what that is and then not try to not try to fix it on them, but show them what it is in a way that they can learn to their best ability, right? Because again, we're not here to be friends with our kids. We're here to learn. And then if down the line we are also friends, I think that's where it's beneficial, right? Instead of just trying to feel like we're here to just please them. And I think one little rabbit hole too is I notice with a lot of parents is they want to like make it so like their kids are always on their side, you know? And I think this part of it is like post-divorce is one effect, and then others is like this new age of parenting that I'm noticing is just making them want to feel good temporarily because it makes the parent feel good about themselves because they didn't have it growing up. So they're like, oh, I didn't have this childhood. I want to have a better life. And I think that's also the hard part about saying those words is I want to have a better life for my family. There's different ways you can go about it, right? Is like for you, for example, like you wanted to have a closer family, you wanted to have a more stability, but then there's going too far where you could have made us spoiled, right? And then we would have been even more fucked potentially, right? And so there's that balance too. That's a part of parenthood that we don't really talk about too often because it's pleasurable, you know?
There's no right to be, there's no right way to parent, but there's a definitely wrong way.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what everybody, well, what's the difference between right and wrong? It's all perception. It really is. But at the end of the day, right, how I talked to me was like, in society, would you want your kid to act this way? Like, how would you want your ideal kid to be and act? And there's what kind of person do you want them to be in society? Like, how do you want to be treated in society? That's your kid. That's who you're building. And so this coddling or this way of handling kids right now, it's hurting them because kids learn through adversity. We learn by falling, by failing, but everybody wants to be the savior and prevent them from getting hurt, not knowing that they're building 10 times more hurt.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
They're building 10 times more hurt.
Yeah. It's not easy. Maybe you'll write a book on parenting one
I think so.
day.
So,
Well, yeah, thank you so much for being vulnerable, and just sharing more stories. I learned a lot today about even just the story about what happened with the cop incident. You left out some details in the past too that I learned as well today. And I think it really just goes to a testament of how important it is to go back into the archives and see what's really going on. Compartmentalization is great unless you never go back and see what's going on in there, right? There's a reason why we do it. It's for the temporary, hey, I need to get through this adversity, and then you have to actually address it because it's going to come back up around again. And that's another thing that we talk about all the time on this podcast. And so thank you for just sharing. And these are questions when I was writing them, I was hesitant in some of them, and I didn't go into all of them, but it's just stuff I wouldn't really consider if I didn't take a few minutes to really just like dive deeper. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing a little bit more about what's going on. And I just am thankful that we're able to do this every week. So it's something I look forward to, and I love you very much.
hey, Jorge, I love you. And my reflection is, guys, think about this. Like, what questions would you like to ask your dad? Like, these are questions I'm going to tell you what 10 years ago, there's no way I would have answered them. I would have been way more, I would have been way more prideful because I wouldn't want my son to see me in a different light, not knowing that the light that he just saw is going to give him a different perspective on his life. Whether you guys like this episode or not, there's already been a pivot that just happened because I am 25 years older than him, and he's getting to see a perspective of me in him that now there's a reflection like, oh, like maybe I need to pivot just 1%. But if we never had this conversation, you wouldn't see that perspective, or you'd see me differently based upon the data you know, not the boy and the young man and the man that I used to be.
Mhm.
I think that's what's really crucial is I love your questions. I love the fact that you can ask me them. I love the fact that you trust me enough that I am going to be sincere and honest with you. That right there that's what we're doing. We're building this intimate like container that's just leading to so many other areas because I know the more conversations I have with you, it helps me be more vulnerable in life with other people. I don't take things personally anymore. Or maybe not as much, right? Sometimes we do. But it's a less of effect because there's nothing that I need to hide. And then by you being able to ask questions now gives you the ability to ask more deeper questions of people. Now, whether they want to answer them or not,
Right.
then, but at least you have a platform to where you're asking some serious vulnerable questions that most people won't ask anybody of an authority figure because they're not sure of the answer.
Right. Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. It means the world to us that everyone's here and just taking this in. This is something we look forward to every single week and just sharing more and more about who we are, where we want to go, and just building that connection and showing how communication can really transform uh, personal relationships and your family dynamic. And that's something that we wanted to just share with everyone. And one of the reasons why we decided to start the Legacy Project. So stay tuned every week, 6:30 PST. We'll be here. And whatever topics you want us to look forward to actually diving into and sharing about how that's impacted us, please let us know. and we'll see you next week.
So, guys.